Back in June, I produced a video on the 3rd century and Christianity in the 3rd century. And it's not always important that we know the exact dates or the people, but that's part of our heritage. And it's good for us to have a general feel of the atmosphere and what was going on at different times in history and how that affects who we are today. So following up on that, I'm going to do another video this today. It's going to be on the 4th century of Christianity. I mentioned back in June that, Christianity started, it began to grow kind of underground. People were suspicious of it. And that at the time that Paul wrote his letter to the Church of Rome, there were about less than 1% of Rome were Christians. It wasn't a big church. It was like something like, I don't know, three tenths of 1% or 7/10 of 1% or something like that at the beginning, at that time when Paul wrote his letter to Rome. But by the end of the 3rd century, Christianity had grown to 10% of the population. And so from about 303, now we're looking at the 4th century. It's not important to know the dates, the times. You can look those up. It's, I think, around from 303 to 311, something like that during this period of time. It was what we call the Great Persecution. Don't know exactly how many people martyred for their faith. If you are looking at early church references, they look at old history from the Roman Empire and stuff, and they'll say 20 to 30,000 were killed. But if you look at more modern archaeologists and sociologists that try to study it, and they look at other writings of the Roman Empire, and they say 3,000 to 4,000. There's a large discrepancy between 3,000 and 30,000. I don't know what the number is. Nobody really knows. But I usually kind of function under the idea that if you have a slant you want to get across, you will pick the statistics that fit sort of your point of view. So I'm guessing there was more than 3,000. I'm guessing there were less than 30,000. And someplace in there, your guess is as good as mine. But Christians lost their homes, churches were closed, property was confiscated, many were killed. There was a fear across the empire. And in the year 312, by that time, the emperor that had been behind the Great Persecution, and again, you can go look these up. It's easy to find on the internet. So if any of the things I'm saying interest you, you want to fact check or see the names a little more, just dig into it. But about 312, the emperor that started the Great Persecution was gone. And the emperor that took their place, one of them was Constantine. Now, it's important to know his name because pretty much everybody mentions Constantine the Great. Now, Constantine, he became a Christian. Well, he was influenced by Christianity, had a vision about Christianity in the year 312. We don't know if he actually became Christian. He wasn't baptized until his deathbed many years later, but he was influenced with Christianity and had a soft spot for Christianity. And in the year 313, he stopped the persecutions. He outlawed the persecutions. He made Christianity a legal religion for the Roman Empire and gave back some of the confiscated property. By the year 380, Constantine was dead, of course. Another emperor was sitting kind of on the throne, imperial throne. But in the year 380, Christianity was made the actual state religion the one official religion of the Roman Empire. So from and the population of the empire that was Christian, depending on where you were at, was somewhere between 50% and 75%, which basically is within the margin of what a number of Americans today who follow Christianity. That is explosive growth. And the empire was huge. And of course, if you have a religion, there's no internet, there's no telephone, there's no, there are no radios, there's no TV with media, and you have an empire that big that's growing that quickly, there are some things that need perhaps to be addressed just because of the growth. So, I mean, I can't say all of the things. We don't have time in a short devotion, but I'll highlight 3 things that probably need to be addressed. Well, the first thing that needed to be addressed with a exploding population of Christians all over, spread out the Roman Empire, is unity. What does it mean to be a Christian? Because you get all these different views, and then they all come up with their own views, kind of write their ideas, and you end up with a fragmented, divided type of theology that everybody kind of sees their own thing. Kind of like a church on every street corner. So Constantine, Emperor Constantine, back in the year 325, so persecution 301 to 311, legal 313 on 325, he called together the Council of Nicaea. And the idea was to bring all of the major Christian leaders from all over the Roman Empire together into one place at one time, hashing out the best theologians, arguing about it, talking about it, the great ecumenical council, and coming up with what does it mean to be a Christian, and who is Jesus Christ? Is Jesus really God? So in 325, when they came together and they all sat together, they boiled down their views to a simple creed. The word creed in Latin means I believe. And the simple creed is, this is what it takes to be a Christian. Other things may be negotiable. It's been said later that we should have, in a in essentials unity, in non-essentials liberty, in everything charity, But these are things that we strike the line. This is what it is to be Christian, and you can see that today in what we call the Nicene Creed. In 380, Christianity became the official religion. I said that just a moment ago, but it didn't become just broad scope, everything they call Christian. Basically, Nicene Christianity became this official state religion based on the Nicene Creed. And today, the majority of the Protestants, the Orthodox churches, the Catholic churches, it's just, the bulk of Christianity today, a couple of thousand years later, is still rooted in that ecumenical council with the Nicene Creed. Your today will be tomorrow's history. God bless you.